We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
What if I told you your body holds the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of your overall well being and your emotional health? I struggled with anxiety a lot of my life and had no idea that part of it was because of my health. Sure, I knew sometimes I choked on food, coughed constantly, was prone to respiratory infections, was almost always short of breath, and would have these attacks where my throat would close entirely for up to a minute. But I had no idea why, and definitely no idea that any of these things were even related. It's easy to look back now and tie it all together in one pretty package, but they were completely separate in my mind growing up, and it wasn't obvious to me at all. Our physical health and emotional health can be so much more intertwined than we initially think. And the more we tune in to what's going on inside of our body and what we're experiencing, watching for different signs or red flags or something that's not quite normal or maybe other people aren't experiencing, the more likely we're able to catch these things going on with us and then improve everything overall in our health and well being. I'm going to share with you today some of my own struggles with my health and the journey along the way, struggling to find a diagnosis, and then how I was able to heal, and how I really understood the shocking connection between understanding our bodies and how that affects our emotional well being and overall resilience and how we handle the stresses in life and the challenges that come up for us. I struggled with this as far back as I can remember. I remember in school, I would pant for air while running in gym class, and the older boys would tease me, saying I was out of shape or couldn't keep up. Even during times I was training daily for dance, doing yoga and Pilates, and staying in pretty incredible shape. I would choke on my food, specifically white bread, like think pasta or like a white bread bagel, or meat like chicken or steak. Over time, I learned to take smaller bites, really small bites, and wash everything down that I was eating with tons of water or whatever I was drinking with my meal. I always had to have a beverage there or I would start choking. And I also experienced these full blown attacks where my throat would actually close entirely or almost entirely. So I'd say like, you know, 95 to 100% closed is how I was experiencing it. And I would fall to the ground, gasping, panicking, um, desperately trying to get air in unsuccessfully. Think about how it feels when you swallow wrong or like something gets like caught where something goes down the wrong tube and you have to catch your breath for a couple seconds. It's that kind of feeling except completely exaggerated from that where it's actually completely closing and you're nearing passing out before your throat finally opens up maybe around 60 seconds later and then you finally catch your breath shaking and terrified. I remember one particular example, I was 18, soon after graduating high school and transitioning to a town a couple of hours away from my hometown where my parents lived in Minnesota. I was driving on the highway and I got a really bad attack. I pulled the car over, I got out, and I was standing in the ditch and I called my mom and I actually told her I thought I was having a heart attack. That's how scared I was. And I would continue to call her anytime I got these attacks, and her voice being kind of this form of comfort for me. It was able to soothe my nervous system back to a regulated place to get myself and my body back in control. In the beginning, she would cry out nervously, call 911. And I would assure her I was fine because I got pretty used to these attacks, but I knew that I just needed to hear her voice to calm myself down and feel safe while I literally felt like I was dying, even though I knew that I wasn't because I had gotten through many before. I told myself these were just really bad anxiety attacks. Just about everything these days can be blamed on anxiety. So question the things that might be bothering you, that you aren't necessarily looking more deeply into, that you don't feel are right in your body. Living with any kind of undiagnosed condition, it can take a toll on our mental health and our belief in ourselves. And when you cannot get air into your lungs properly, naturally, you're more prone to panic and spiraling out. But I didn't know this at the time. I just thought I had bad, bad anxiety. So it was left untouched and untreated. And this took a toll on my own belief in myself, my own emotional well being. I thought I was incapable of handling difficult situations in my life. I thought something was fundamentally wrong with me and who I was at my core. But there was an underlying cause all along. The power of learning the root cause alone is that it allows us to feel free. When I found out I had an actual breathing disorder, many of my own panicked reactions to different situations actually stopped immediately. I was actually shocked by this myself, but as I reflected, it made sense. Understanding that something is simply a reaction in your body and knowing you're not dying can calm you down pretty quickly. I was able to take each situation at face value and see that most things were not life or death, notice the reaction my body was having, and then respond from a more calm and regulated space. When I got into a relationship while living in Georgia and he started staying with me, he started to witness some of these attacks I was having. Living in the humid air of Georgia with pollen and ragweed and mold and all of these delicious things in the air, it exacerbated my condition. So they grew worse and worse living there. And it became a regular thing for me to wake up in the middle of the night with my throat mostly closed, gasping desperately for air. I also coughed constantly and oftentimes needed to clear my throat. He urged me to see a specialist, insisting this was not normal. Oh no, I assured him. This is perfectly normal. I've lived with this all my life. But he wasn't willing to let this go. And I would retort back saying, I've seen my primary doctor, the ENT, the allergist, you name it. Like literally, I thought I had seen every doctor I possibly could, and no one could help me. And I said I wasn't going to waste more time and money seeing doctors with zero results and zero relief from what I was struggling with. Luckily for me, he never stopped pushing. And eventually I listened to his words, go see a lung doctor. I honestly didn't even know that that was a thing or that existed. And as it grew harder and harder to breathe in Georgia, it honestly started to feel like I was breathing through one of those little tiny coffee stir stick straws on a daily basis. Like on a regular basis, I could feel intensely how hard it was to get air into my body. And it became harder and harder to ignore. I eventually transitioned out of the state to go stay with my parents while I waited for my place in Colorado to be ready because it became so difficult to breathe. I felt like I was losing my mind. So I found a pulmonologist and booked my appointment. I went in and he ran different tests on me. And then we sat down together afterwards and he showed me my breathing diagram. The exhale is on the top, as if medical charts aren't confusing enough already, and the inhale is on the bottom. So ideally, it would be this beautiful circle of breath that your body is taking. He showed me how my breath showed up on the image, that during the test, I gave everything I had to breathe in as deeply as I possibly could and exhale as much as I possibly could. My exhale on the top was round. My inhale, however, was nearly completely flat. And he told me this is how the breath shows up when you have VCD. And he told me we could confirm this diagnosis by seeing a speech pathologist and doing a video stroboscopy. Say that 10 times fast. But I was shocked. My body wasn't taking in air and my throat was more closed than it was supposed to be. I mean, it made sense. The questions literally started to pour out of me. I was asking about all of these weird things I was dealing with and wondering if they could possibly be related. So I told him, I said, weird question. Would choking on food be related to this? Like, bread or meat, or even if I eat something minty, or if I'm chewing gum or sucking on a mint, especially wintergreen flavor or something like that, I will choke. Could this possibly be related? His answer was yes. The coughing was related. The shortness of breath was related. I mean, walking up the stairs would send me out of breath immediately. Even when I was in shape and actively exercising, the increased panic and anxiety was absolutely related. When I left the appointment and I sat in my car in the parking lot, I started crying. I cried both for the grief of having to deal with this for so many years and having no idea what was going on. And then I also cried for the relief that I had, knowing what was actually going on. I actually was finding the root cause and would be able to create an action plan and move forward. Talk about weight being lifted. Knowing what was wrong finally gave me the key to open the door to break from my own internal prison I had been in and I had lived within. And understanding the root cause of what's going on in our bodies gives us that kind of power back where we're able to start healing and actually take control back. And if you take nothing else away from this episode, I want you to take away this. You are your best advocate. Do not give up on yourself. Do not stop asking questions. Listen to your body. Listen to what it is telling you. You know you and your body better than anyone else does. As I continue to see my therapist, my mental health therapist, not my speech therapist, I was that I was seeing at the time, we worked through how to pair this healing and managing of my ongoing VCD with my own self-soothing and managing my own mental health. Being aware of what was actually going on and actually happening inside of my body gave me that power back to accelerate my own growth. So take time to notice what is going on inside of your body. What have you been feeling? What are the weird or uncomfortable or scary things you've been dealing with? Or maybe something you put up with because it's always been that way, or it must just be anxiety. Our physical health affects our mental health, and our mental health affects our physical health. I have realized so intimately that these do not exist separately or on their own. Some of the practices that I've had all my life, I think have helped my VCD along the years, such as my yoga and meditation practices, or the way I drink water like a fish. Other things I had to work really hard at, though. My homework with my speech pathologist started small and evolved over time as I graduated out of survival to management, like the ongoing treatment. The actual deep and everyday suffering I was experiencing went away, and it became something more or less annoying that I had to constantly deal with and manage, and that would show up in an angry way when I didn't take care of it. So it really forced me to slow down. But finding solutions empowers us to be more resilient because we realize that we do have a choice. We always have a choice and we can do something about it. We are in control. So we're more encouraged. We stay on the path, we take action, and we reach our results. In my speech therapy with my speech pathologist, I had to learn to slow way down. Like, I'm talking way down. I even tried to do some of my homework and practices like in the car or on the way or during a meeting, and she was like, "No, you can't do that." And it's defeating the purpose of actually slowing down, being intentional, and spending that time with yourself to take care of yourself. I had different practices from self massage to daily breathing exercises to different techniques to keep my nasal passageways and my throat more clean and clear. I was literally forced, well, forced if I wanted the relief, to take this time for me and my body. Essentially, my throat was in hyper defensive mode. And it still is somewhat in a defensive mode, but not like hyper like it was before I was treating and taking care of this and actually knew what it was. It didn't want anything to get in. So I would cough all the time as my body's way of getting anything that made it in out. And then my throat would close and I would choke on different foods because it was hypersensitive of anything dangerous, quote unquote, making its way into my throat. And I had to actually train my body, train my lungs and my vocal cord to work properly, and then clean out what was in there so that it had the opportunity to heal and wasn't being further exacerbated and bothered by allergens and different triggers. I also had to avoid different types of food that I don't even want to talk about because it was so difficult to stop eating chocolate. I cut out caffeine. I went caffeine free. To this day, I drink decaf coffee, which I'm totally fine with now. But ask my family, I was a tyrant for like 4 weeks. And then some of the practices I was already doing, like I was already meditating, but I had to apply the practice of really slowing down in my routines, not just cranking them out or checking them off or, checking off a box, but truly slowing down with myself in order to allow my body to actually start healing and teaching my lungs and vocal cords how to function better. So I want you to commit to prioritizing your own self awareness, listening to what's going on inside of you, and your own self care, knowing that understanding our bodies is a critical step to the whole picture, to our overall well being. And it can be difficult when you've had struggles since childhood, or you've been on this long journey of misdiagnosis or no diagnosis and a lack of healing. But don't give up. We can get there. And learning the connection between our own minds and bodies helps us become more resilient as we find results and we actually find solutions. We feel better with every step we take in more deeply understanding ourselves. Your body holds the key to your health and your emotional wellness, and every step towards improving that is a step towards your healthier, happier, and freer life. Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world, and as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.